makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Natalie Ruiz. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. In this episode, we are going to have a conversation with Natalie Ruiz. She is the CEO of AnswerConnect. Sometimes the universe plans things for us even when we don't realize it. And Natalie's story is one of them. She started working for AnswerConnect as a temporary employee and is now the organization's CEO. I'm wondering how she became the CEO of AnswerConnect. Are you? Well, time for us to ask her. Ready? Wait a minute. We are not in a race. Oops, my bad. No race. Instead, let's learn about Natalie's journey with AnswerConnect. Hi, Natalie. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today. I'm so excited to learn more about your journey and everything you have been going through to actually make it where you are today. So to get started, your career has been an incredible journey from being a temporary employee to AnswerConnect to being the CEO of the company. Just incredible. Tell us how you made it possible.
Well, first I have to say, thank you so much for having me. And as far as this wild ride, this adventure that has been my life and my career journey, I wouldn't have been able to do it without a lot of helpers and a lot of luck. I mean, I have to put that out there because that made a difference. But I would say as well, if I want to give myself some of the credit, it was being tenacious, being curious, volunteering to take on extra projects, and also being loyal. I've been with my company since 2006. So yes, that's 16 years. And so when you start to amass like knowledge, seniority, expertise, I mean, it becomes much easier. You know the business really well, inside and out. And that helped put me in the best position to become the CEO of the company because I knew so many different aspects of how we worked, why we did what we did, and I was very, very ingrained and passionate about our mission.
Wow, that's amazing. Can you tell us about AnswerConnect?
Yes, AnswerConnect is an awesome service. We predominantly help small and medium sized businesses. We provide virtual reception and also software that we create to help those businesses work anywhere and kind of multiply themselves. So these days, people are working not just from a brick and mortar office, they're working from home, they're working from their vehicle, they're working from client sites. And between our people powered services, the virtual reception, and the software, we can make sure that they never miss a phone call again. They always provide amazing customer service, and we're booking appointments, we're transferring calls, we're an extension of their business.
So pretty much, if I understand correctly, you provide the services where they don't have to actually have to answer the phone call themselves. They have
hmm
someone that's answer the call for them. But also, do that also give them option to answer call themselves from your
Yes.
software?
Yes. So if they're available and they want to take a call, they have that power to do so. But if they are stepping in front of a client, they want to go to bed for the night, heaven forbid, they get to take a vacation or have dinner with their family, they can send the calls our way as well. So it works both ways, both directions.
I love it. Especially for busy entrepreneurs that have meetings from one meetings to another meetings. And
Yes.
let's talk about people, entrepreneurs that also have a podcast. So you probably be recording, you can take the call, but you also need, someone that can take the message,
Yes.
rely it back to you, say, hey, this client needs you right away,
It
call
it
back.
sounds like it sounds like you need Answer Connect. What's happening with your phone calls right now?
Oh, you are so funny. So you claim that your path to success has been unconventional. Why do you say so?
So I think let's talk about convention. Let's talk about what we think about when you think of a tech CEO. We don't often think of women. We don't often think of women of color. I mean, by percentage, it's very, very small. We don't often think, and this is me speaking more personally now, of a woman who grew up in a very rural community that only has 50 houses in it, about somebody who didn't finish college, about somebody who once sold used cars and worked retail and worked in hospitality on their career journey. That's a little bit about me. So I'm not an Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos, thank goodness. Um, I'm hoping that by existing and by doing a great job and telling my story, we can start to shift that archetype so that when we do think about CEOs, we think about a broader spectrum of who that could be. Sometimes, yeah. I mean, certainly I love those stories, right? Because it feeds into my narrative. So that's amazing. I think there's a lot of different paths to success. And whether that path is through conventional school and higher education, or if that is because you navigate some plot twists and you show some tenacity and some creative thinking, I think both of those paths can lead to achievement. So, yeah, first impressions are really powerful. And my first impression of AnswerConnect was that it was chaotic. It was bumpy. There was not a good onboarding experience, and there were no feelings of the warm and fuzzy happening. So I was planning to quit. And then I happened to run into the founder of the company. And it was a chance meeting in the hallway, but he just asked me how things were going. And I did this thing where I know what the right answer is. And the right answer is it's going great. I love it here. Thanks so much for the opportunity. I think we've all been in organizations where that's the only kind of answer that you feel comfortable giving your boss. So that's what I planned to do. But when I opened my mouth, the truth came out. I don't know if that's ever happened to any of you. It's kind of like that joke. Sometimes I open my mouth and my mother comes out. That happens to me too. Um, so I told him I don't plan on staying. He asked me why. And this is where my second impression came to be because he really listened. And when I got done sharing, he asked me if I would be willing to help improve any of those things. And what I saw was really immediate, rapid change, meaning the very next person who was hired had a better onboarding experience. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't magical, but it was better. And for me, that planted a seed of possibility that I could influence positive change. And I was addicted to that feeling. And that carried me through. I never wanted to go anywhere else as long as I could be part of making it better.
I wish every founder was just like that founder. That's all I have to
me
say.
me too. Yes, I know how lucky I am to get to work with someone like that.
Yes, absolutely very lucky because not every founder got to listen to the employees saying something. They just were like, oh, thank you for sharing. And they pretty much you went from here to the other one. And then
Oh,
that was it.
I have to tell you, I expected to be fired, the next day. I thought maybe he just said the nice thing like, "Oh, yes, thanks for sharing. I hope you'll help us with that." And then somebody else would call me and say, Natalie, it's not working out because you don't want to be the problem. And I've certainly worked in organizations that were not psychologically safe enough to speak up or to dissent or to, heaven forbid, say that something isn't as good as it should be.
Yes, it's amazing that you took that chance. You took that chance, and guess what happened? But not every woman really want to step up and take that chance. I wish
Yeah.
more women will do that.
It's a thin line because we all have to have a job. And I was in a place in my life where I needed to have that paycheck on Friday. So there was a risk. And so I've certainly been places where I bit my tongue. I held back. I'm glad that I spoke up in that moment, and it certainly emboldened me to speak up more in my career. But I totally get it that sometimes you aren't in a place where you can. But what I would say, and my advice would be, work as fast as you can to get into an environment where you can.
Absolutely. Can you tell us a little bit about your backstory? What led you to this particular career path?
Sure. Well, I've always worked. So I've always worked, and I was heavily in sales in my early days. And I truly think that most jobs are sales in one way or another. And so that was something that I had been doing. When I found Answer Connect, I was looking for really basic things. I was pretty young at the time, and I was looking for a job that had a better schedule than what I had been working in. I was managing a restaurant. So I was working in this industry, so many hours, so many moving parts, no kind of balance between the things that I wanted to do and the things that I had to do. So I was looking for a better schedule. I was also looking for something that would be a little bit less stressful, and some more security, just like day to day, I would know what it looked like. So that set me out to work with a staffing agency who could place me in a totally new industry, telecom, tech. That was kind of the beginning of it. What I can say is, having been there for many, many years now, I've seen the value of this industry and this business. I survived and we survived the 08, 09 recession. And
Wow.
prior to that, we had seen so many businesses that were hiring us because they were scaling so fast. So they needed to scale their business with somebody like AnswerConnect. And then the recession hit and they were still calling us, but it was for a much more somber reason. It's because they were shrinking and they had to let staff go, but they still needed somebody to answer their phone. They still needed a way to run their business. Now we've gone through multiple years of COVID, of political disruptions, of social justice, of so many things. And we're still helping businesses, and we're still helping them navigate and pivot and work differently and kind of work in this consultative way so that they can stay afloat. And that's one of the reasons I've stayed. So I found the industry by chance, but I've stayed because I really see the value and believe in the problems that we're solving.
So, can you share the most interesting story that has happened to you since you began leading the company itself?
Oh my goodness. We have I mean, we're talking 16 years of interesting stories. So, my goodness. Okay, so there's one I will never forget. And it still gives me chills. I was at a trade show. I was setting up the booth. And usually at trade shows with booths, I mean, if you're selling something, people, they kind of don't want to talk to you, right? So you have to attract them with swag and giveaways and gadgets and all of these things. And we were still setting up, and we started growing, amassing this line of people who wanted to talk to us. And that's really uncommon. And so I looked and I saw that there was a woman standing off to the side, just funneling folks to us, just like, you have to talk to AnswerConnect. You have to go do it. You need to sign up with them. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like, I need to hire this woman, but also I have all of these folks in front of me who I need to work with. So once we got through helping, serving, signing up all of these people, I went over because I had to introduce myself. And before I even got all of the words out of my mouth, she grabbed me and said, "No, you don't understand. AnswerConnect saved my life." Now, we don't do heart surgery. We don't do this kind of thing. So I'm thinking, okay, you've got my attention now. So she told me that a couple of years prior, she and her then husband had cashed out their 401ks. They had put in notice at their corporate jobs, and they decided to buy into a franchise, so start a business. They outlaid all this money. They reformulated how their life was going to work because they were going to be entrepreneurs. And right after she signed the papers to take on the franchise, he filed for divorce. Right. Yeah. Like, I know that deserves its own moment of silence, right? Like, what in the world? So, life upheaval. She's a new business owner. She has no 401k. She has no corporate job, and she doesn't know what she's doing. And she thought she was going into this with a partner, and now she's flying solo. She said that every piece of her life felt upside down and out of control. And she was a mom. She had 3 kids, and she felt like she was failing at every turn. She was going to lose everything. And she happened to find AnswerConnect, and we started taking her phone calls. And little by little, like, small wins. She got to have dinner with her kids and be present, not answering her cell phone. She finally got to sleep through the night without answering the phone. Anyway, when she was funneling people to our table, this is maybe 3 or 4 years later, she was at that event to win an award, to walk across stage for one of the fastest growing, highest achieving franchises. And I mean, just you think about the growth, you think about the success that happened because she had a partner. And so I'll never forget that story. It fuels me every day on why we do what we do.
I have a feeling the ex-husband, just to be correct, probably
Yes.
really regret that decision now.
Well, we don't care as much about him. We're just celebrating her success, right?
I know, right? It's like, dude, you make a big mistake, but okay, keep it moving forward because she's happy, she's doing her thing, and she's wow. But
Yes.
you guys are making a big difference on people's life, and I can see it. I can imagine it because yeah, having the phone ring all the time can be annoying.
And you have to decide. You said like a podcast, the client in front of you or the five who are trying to get a hold of you. How do you prioritize? They're all important, but there's only one of you. And so
Exactly.
when you get some help, you can scale. All five of those folks who are trying to reach you can have an amazing experience, and then you can get to them as soon as you're able.
Absolutely, I agree with you on that. Is there a particular person who you are grateful toward who helped you get where you are? Can you share a story about that?
So I, so many people, this always gives me pause because I like to believe, I think that I am living in gratitude. I'm so grateful. I feel everybody has played a part in helping me be who I am and where I'm at. Certainly the founder of my company has taken so many chances on me, has been a mentor, has helped. I remember the first huge mistake, big fail that I made at work. I had this brilliant idea. I was going to change the entire structure for a department, which should already be raising red flags. Like, that is not how you should do something. Try like small experiments, test it out. But I was so certain that I was right. And not shocking, I'm sure. I wasn't right. It was a huge mistake, but I was also stubborn to admit failure. And so I thought if I kept it going, it's kind of that sunk cost fallacy, like maybe this will turn around, which just made it a bigger and more expensive mistake. And when the numbers came out at this juncture, I looked at them and I really thought, I'm going to be fired. Like, this is terrible. This is so expensive. We did not get the results that we thought we were going to get. Now I have all these people as well who have disrupted, fired, demoted, something awful. And nobody was like yelling at me. Nobody was telling me to get into their office. And I'm an impatient person. So I marched into my boss's office and I said, I'm sure you've seen the numbers. I have to talk to you about it. And it all came spilling out. I made a mistake. This was a miscalculation. I should have pulled the plug really early. I just laid it all. And I remember it was like slow motion because he was just sitting there so calm. And when I got done, he said, well, it sounds like it'll go better next time.
Huh.
And I thought, curious. I'm sure now being a CEO, I am certain he definitely knew those numbers. He was definitely watching like this fire happen. But his ability to remain calm and convey that he trusted me to try something again, it meant everything. Because it meant failure, it wasn't permanent. It wasn't the end of the road. And it did embolden me to want to fix it, to do my best job at unraveling this mess that I had made. And I've made some mistakes since then, but not the same ones and not as big. And I think that has made a huge difference for me. So I'm definitely inspired by him and give him a lot of credit for being a good mentor.
I think he trusted you because he thought that the fact that you yourself come to him and saying, I made a boo boo here. So he figured that you probably will come up with another plan to
There's
fix the
there's a
first
theme
one.
there's a theme here of me speaking up, right?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Do you believe that it is important for a business organization to have a diverse executive team? And why?
100%. Yes. So when it comes to diversity, yes. I think that one of the best things about AnswerConnect is that we're remote first. So we hire from actually all over the globe at this point. And so we're able to cast a wide net. It's the best talent, not the closest. When I first started, remote work didn't exist for this type of work. The tech wasn't there. So we were in one location and pretty much everybody worked from, within an hour, maybe commute distance of the office, which made us very homogenous. We were pretty much the same ish, like same culture from the same place, lots of similar backgrounds. As we have become more diverse, we are stronger. When we have a conversation about how we can do something better, there's so many more perspectives, so many more voices in the room. And so I'm really passionate about that. Also, when you develop tech or solutions or products, you want them to be representative of your customers who are also diverse. But I would say diversity is only one piece of it. You can bring in a lot of people from different backgrounds, different histories, different geographies, different lived experiences, different makeups, But if you don't create an environment that's inclusive and equitable so that they have the same chance to thrive, then again, you only have a piece of it. So I think all of that is important.
So it's really important to have it and that a
To
diversity
be
of team.
intentional,
Yeah,
we all have conscious and unconscious bias. It's just built into us. It's human nature to see the world through a specific lens. So you have to be intentional about doing the work to learn and then unlearn some things, and then really call out the pieces that aren't working for folks, and then have accountability to make the right changes.
absolutely. I agree with you on that. Managing a team, because you must have a very huge team you are managing. How do you handle that?
So I'm really passionate about leadership. Like that's my jam. I'm always trying to work on being a better leader. And what I have found out over the years is that the best leaders lead from behind. So we grow more leaders. So yes, I have a huge team, but I have a really robust, amazing, huge team. And there's no way I could be in every conversation, in every discussion, in every meeting. So delegation is the name of the game, and you can only feel good in your heart and your gut about delegating when you have strong people to delegate to. And so I'm very lucky to have grown some amazing leaders around me.
That's awesome. How did the responsibility of an executive different from those other leadership roles?
I think it's interesting because it's not what I would have thought it would be. So I think, at least for myself, when I thought of executives, CEOs, I start imagining like mahogany desks and big conference rooms and maybe going around in a jet and I don't know, maybe like pounding your fist on the table or something. It's actually very much the opposite. I think that the more senior you are, the more you oversee, the broader your view can become. And actually, I get to be so much more authentic, so much more heart led as a leader. I think when I was more junior in like a supervisory or a management position of a specific team or a specific department, I was still growing and learning, and I didn't see how the whole company worked. I didn't understand how to make decisions that could help us in like 10 years, for instance. And that was limiting. But when you become an executive, I think you understand that decisions impact your people. They impact your customers. They impact our planet. They impact our mission. And I think, at least for my team, and this probably isn't true everywhere, it makes us a lot more conscientious. It makes us a lot more collaborative. I think that we all take our roles seriously, and we know that we have a responsibility to stretch, to think differently, to reimagine what it could be. Um, that's, I guess, that in a nutshell, it would be maybe as an entry level supervisor. There's a lot more of doing it the way that maybe it's supposed to be done because you're still new. But when you're an executive, if you don't like the way something is or it doesn't feel right within you, it's your responsibility to fix it. And that's the job.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you on that. So, what, according to you, are the biggest challenges faced by women executive that aren't typically faced by the male? It's like you got the picture.
So, yes, I know this question really, really well. I would say, I mean, statistically, women CEOs, depending on whether you're looking at Fortune 100, 500, or altogether, we make up what, 5% maybe? I think that's the problem right there. I think that if we made up 50% and also there was pay equity and there were all of these other things, a lot of the problems disappear. But when you are a minority in just the sheer, like by gender, and that's not even getting into all of the differentiations based on ethnicity, based on, how we walk through the world, the intersectionalities of our identity, you're at a disadvantage because you might be the first, you might be the only, and you are, and there's a lot resting on your shoulders. I'll say I did a Q&A earlier today actually with one of my teams, and it was interesting because I'm always curious what the questions will be. People are willing, they're able to submit any question and I'll do a live Q&A. So many of them still are, as a woman, as a mother, how do you balance? Like these questions come up so often, and I never mind answering them. But what I know is that most of the men who are executives don't get those questions. They just don't. And so, and I know they come from a good place. And there is a lot to balance. There is a lot to consider. Being a working parent, a working mom, it's not an easy job. But there are working dads, and we don't have that conversation. I think that's because there's already the bias that the women, the moms, are going to be doing that unpaid labor, that caregiving. We are going to be the ones doing it. That's already like signed, sealed, delivered. Um, so there's that. I also think, when we talk about bias, implicit and explicit bias, walking through the world, there's parts of you that walk into the room before you ever get to open your mouth, before you ever get to tell somebody your title, your experience, your resume, any of that. And everybody from a historically underrepresented identity knows all about that. So I think that is, there's a mountain to climb with that. But I'm excited to get to do it. I feel very privileged to get to do it. And I'm hoping when my daughter is an adult, it's not as big of a deal. It's not as uncommon to see a woman executive, a woman CEO, somebody who has an unconventional background or somebody who's doing it differently.
Absolutely. And I think you are already working on that for her so that she can, even if someone tell her that you can do this, she can say, my mom did it. Why can't I?
You know what's interesting about kids? Up to a certain age, when you ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? I mean, the sky is the limit. They want to be everything, right? They want to be famous singers, they want to be astronauts, they want to be famous inventors. They don't have any limitations in their mind as far as what's possible. And then as you go through life, you get whittled down. And your dreams, you can shrink them. And I think there's so much validity to that quote that, you can't be what you can't see. And so to go back to kind of the original question, it was the problem is the percentage. Like if we were at total equity, 50-50, and good representation and equal pay, so much of this conversation wouldn't even need to happen.
Not at all. We won't need to. But the thing is that I think even as a child, for me growing up, I still couldn't understand why a woman was underpaid compared to a man. I have a really hard time understanding it, and I still don't get it either. For me, because
I don't think you should ever get to a place where you do understand it. It's
I
not
really don't.
understandable.
Because I remember a little story. I remember when I was young, I always visit my grandparents, and every time I go to my grandpa and said, "Grandma, the ice cream truck is out. Can I have a quarter or something to go buy?" And my grandpa will send me right back to my grandma. And then one day I stopped myself and asked him, "Well, grandpa, you go to work. You bring the money. Why do I need to go ask grandma?" And my grandpa said, "Because grandma is the leader of the house. I just go to work and bring the money, and she handle it. And trust me, she's better at me doing it."
I
And
love
I'm
it.
like, really? So a lot of lesson I learned them from my grandparents, the way they all taught, the way they live their life. But when I actually get to grow up, I see a whole different. I see women around me that was completely different, getting beat up, underpaid. They didn't really have control of the household and things like that. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? I don't want to be like you. I don't want to be like you. I definitely don't want to be like you. So I create my own rules as a teenager. Even when I started dating, I would create my own rules. This is the rules for me. And even when I remember when I first get my first job, which was with Papa John's, I created the rules when I get there. I seriously tell the boss, I want a job, I want this, I want to do this, this is where I want to be, I want to be the manager at that age. And I remember she was looking at me like, okay. I think that as women, we need to speak our mind. We need to say what we want. Don't just expect somebody gonna make that decision for us because they definitely not gonna make the best decision for us.
I agree with you on this. And I think so that I so agree with making your own rules because if we follow the rules, these rules were not set up for us to live in the way that we want to live. So I'm a big rule follower when the rules make sense. I'll say that. Like I'm not an outlaw, but I don't follow rules that I think are dumb. I just won't.
I
And
I don't follow rules. I feel like it's only hurting half of the society, and that,
agree.
it's like, why do you have a rules? Women have to make less money, the men make more money. So exactly how that work, I don't
Yeah.
understand.
But by you making your own rules, by all of us being emboldened to do this, like that's how we change things.
Exactly.
If you just keep doing things the way you're supposed to do or the way that they've always been done, nothing changes.
But
And so,
again, Natalia, if you go back to history, a lot of the women that done a lot of great things in this world, that's because they didn't follow the rules. If they
yeah,
did,
exactly.
nothing would have changed at all.
Hmm.
Women will still not be able to vote if they actually follow the rules.
Yes, the so it's really interesting because the people who seem, crazy, or the ideas that seem too out there, I mean, a lot of these things that have made our society, have made our lives better, people actually fought really hard against. They didn't want them to happen because it was different, because it was disruptive, because maybe in some cases it took away some power from one group to give to another. And so I think knowing that can also embolden us to push for the changes that we want to see.
Absolutely. And I am grateful to meet women like you that just actually doing just that. And I love the fact that you said you have a Q&A with your team, because you listen to them and you get to help them implement things that they need for them to move forward in the career with the company. And I love that. And I hope the founder appreciate all the great work you are doing within the company itself. So another question I have for you, what is next for InstaConnect?
So we support small and medium sized businesses. And certainly these last couple of years have been an adventure, to put, a positive spin on some really catastrophic things. So what's next for Answer Connect, I think, is to stay on the cutting edge of what technology will allow us to do, to continue providing services and products that will help so many of our clients. So many people jumped into the deep end of remote work but didn't exactly know how to do it or how to do it well. So we have also developed video conferencing software. We have created tech so that they can connect with their teams if their teams are working from home, and also stay connected to the messages that we're taking and the calls that we're taking. We have a mobile app. We're going to keep putting tools in our customers' hands that help them work differently and help them work anywhere. But we're going to stay human. We know that the basis of this is human connection. Technology is the foundation, but what people are really looking for when they pick up the phone, when they try to reach you, is that human connection, the shortest distance between I have a question or I have a problem and a solution. And that's where we're going to be.
That human connection, no matter what you do, I don't think we can change that, because it makes a huge difference.
Hmm.
So, what is next for you?
I love what I do. I have the best job in the world. I've got so much freedom and autonomy within my role and within this awesome business to really focus on the things that matter. I did take up an executive board position with an org here in Portland that is right in line with what I'm passionate about. It's about equity and inclusion in the workplace, and I love volunteering there. But what's next for me is doing more things like this, speaking out more, telling more of our stories, lending some voice to Answer Connect. We have been around for many, many years, since the early 2000s, but we're busy getting to work. We're still busy working, but I think it's time to start telling our story. I think that more businesses could benefit from learning that you can do it differently. You can lead with both your head and your heart and have a profitable business that provides value. And so, I intend to keep working hard, keep showing up, and hoping to make a positive impact.
Absolutely. InstaConnect can definitely help small, especially small businesses. We need something like that to stay in track, so not falling down
Hmm.
all the time. What advice would you give to other leaders to help them to help them actually strive with their teams and then keep moving forward as well?
So, the only place that I get good ideas, I've got to say, so not the only place, but the two main. One, I learn by making mistakes. That's hard, but usually the things that I know, and I know at such like a granular level, or because I screwed up and I learned that lesson. The other thing is just learning in general, intentionally. And so at my company, we have paid learning time for all of our employees. So 30 minutes a day of paid time to learn skills, learn about things that will help in your job. And it's open, it's crowdsourced, learning all about things. So I learn a lot about leadership, I learn a lot about software, I learn a lot about tech, but we expand this to everyone. And it's amazing to see the tracks that people will pursue. So my advice to leaders would be, don't stop learning. Don't think that you know it all, because you don't. Be open to that feedback and treat people the way that you would treat somebody who you care about, because you need to stay connected to all of the people in your organization. You're never too big to have a conversation with somebody. You're never too busy to do the right thing, and you're never too far removed to like take out the trash or answer a call or talk to a customer. I mean, that is the core of it. And again, when we think about executives, when we think about CEOs, the visions of, big boardrooms and fancy people can flood our head a lot faster than somebody who is doing the work that an entry level employee might need to do. But it's essential to be able to do both.
I one thing that you said I love the most is I guess I'm gonna kind of change it around. Treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yes, that's
Absolutely.
essential.
Anything else you'd like to share with us today?
Well, this has been so amazing. I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing and giving women a platform to share our stories. I think that's phenomenal. Um, I'm big on helping. I want to make a positive impact. I want to share what I know. I want to be generous with the lessons that I've learned, especially the hard way. So if anybody who's listening wants to connect, they can find me on LinkedIn, and I would be more than happy to answer questions, share knowledge, or certainly sign anybody up for AnswerConnect who thinks that might be a great service for them to use.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for taking the time to be in here with me today and to share your knowledge, because I love to learn. I'm still as my grandpa used to say that to me, you are a learning progress. So I guess until the day I die, I will be still learning. So everyone I
Cheers
met.
to that. Yes. Cheers to that. I never want to stop. That means we're like done, right?
Yes. There's nothing else I can do about it. So I guess I'm done for Thank you, and I appreciate all the support you are giving women.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Wow, this is amazing. The surprising part of the story is that she only wanted to quit her job in the first week. Imagine that. If she actually really quit the job in the first week, well, she wouldn't be the CEO, will she? She thought the company wasn't the right fit. However, the universe had other plans, which made her one of the leading CEOs in the world. Sometimes giving up is the only option we can see because we think we have no voice, especially as women. Do not feel that way. Speak. Let your voice be heard, because speaking out can open doors just like it did for Natalie. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Let me know your thoughts about this episode and why do you think most women launch a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? To learn more about Natalie and AnswerConnect, visit www.AnswerConnect.com. Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.